Hello again, this is Kevin with Custom Micro, and today is part 5 of our configuration guide of the FS S3410-48TS-P. We're going to talk about and take a look at the command line interface. Let's do it. There is one more thing I'd like to do before we hop into the command line interface and take a look around there. If you'll go to System, go to Settings, choose Reset. Down here at the bottom, so I'm going to click on Export Current Configuration, and we have a saved configuration file. That's our cheat sheet to know how to configure the switch in the command line interface. You notice our access list we created earlier with our rules. You'll notice that the password for the SSH or for the command line is in plain text. We'll talk about that in just a moment. You notice DHCP service is running. We have our different DHCP pools here in this section. We do have HTTP and HTTPS enabled for the web interface, and the password for the web interface is encrypted. This is the section I want to show you. The reason that the command line password is in plain text is because of this, no service password dash encryption. We'll go to the command line in a moment and change that so that SSH password will also be encrypted. We have our VLANs listed, VLAN 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 200 with their names. We have our different interfaces, and we see how they're configured. You remember interface 1 was what I was initially plugged into, and we never changed that to a trunk port, or we never untagged it on a different VLAN besides the native VLAN 1. But you'll notice on interface 2 that I'm currently plugged into, the mode is a trunk port, not an access port. The native or primary VLAN ID is 10, that's the untagged VLAN, and it's allowing VLAN 10 and 30, which tells us that VLAN 30 is the tagged VLAN, the only tagged VLAN on that interface. You'll also notice that PoE is enabled by default on all of your interfaces. And then finally, we have our routed VLANs listed here. VLAN 1 through 200 with their IP addresses listed. Notice we have our default route, which is saying everything, if there's not already a connected route or a different static route. In this case, we have no other static routes listed in our route table. It's saying send all traffic on VLAN 200. The next hop is 172.16.127.1, which will be the IP address of our firewall, gateway, router, whatever it's going to be. And that's it. That pretty much wraps up a quick look at our cheat sheet for the command line interface. Before we hop into our command line interface, I discovered one other issue. When I tried to use PuTTY to SSH into the switch, it said it only supported the older version 1 of SSH. We need to change this to version 2. And click apply. We'll log in. Remember, the default username and password of the command line is admin. We have some commands we can run right here before we go into elevated privilege mode. For example, we can say show run, which will show our running configuration, which we looked at earlier. We made a backup of our config file. If you want to make changes, you're going to first need to type the word enable. That puts us in an elevated mode, and then we'll type the word configure, and we type the letter T for terminal. So it says enter configuration commands, 1 per line, and then if we need to end, we can end with Control Z. So what we're going to do first, if you remember earlier, and since we've just show our running configuration, we can go back up here and find this toward the top of the configuration. You remember we have this no service password encryption. We want to undo that. So we're going to type service password dash encryption. I'm just going to show you though, you can start to type things and hit tab and it will finish it for you. So we're going to enable that. So now we're going to create an encrypted secure password for the command line interface. I hit enter a few times on the keyboard just to clear out the configuration so we can see things a little clearer. So we'll type the word username. If you notice, if you hit a question mark after that, it tells you what username are we talking about. We're going to do the admin username. We can hit question mark again. We could change the privilege if we like. our options are 0 through 15, but earlier, by default, the command line interface username is set to privilege 15, which gives it full admin rights, which is what we desire. So we'll leave privilege alone. But now we're going to go ahead and set the password. So username admin, password. We'll make it real simple and call it password 1234 exclamation mark. So now what we can do is we can take a look at our configuration and see if that's in plain text or if now it's encrypted. So let's take a look at that. We'll show our running configuration again. You notice earlier I just typed show run. We can type show running configuration, config. Now that we've done that, let's scroll up just a little bit. There we go. So now you notice our username is admin, privilege 15, password is encrypted, and there's our hex string for the password. So in order to save the changes that we just made, we have to exit config mode. So we'll type the word exit, and then we can type write mem. If I tab, you'll notice the command is write memory. That saves our configuration. Always, always, always write mem. If you do not, you will regret it. That will write the running config to the startup config, so if the switch reboots for any reason, you'll have your current config. I'll go through a few more things before we wrap up the video. We'll go back into configuration mode. And let's say we wanted to change one of our interfaces. Again, we can use our saved file as a cheat sheet, if you will. So let's say we want to change interface 7. So let's go into interface, gigabit Ethernet. Remember, you can tab that over 0/7. You might say, why is there a 0/? Well, these switches do support stacking, so there may be more than one switch. We'll hit enter, and then we can say, we can leave the native VLAN to be 10, but we could say switch port trunk allowed VLAN only 10, 20, 50. And now this will be set up as one of our wireless access points. Let's say we wanted to name it as such. We can say name. I thought you could say name. The command's actually description. So we can type the word description, and we can put in a description for the interface, and we can say wireless AP. So now if we show the running configuration, and we scroll back up to interface 7, you notice now its description is wireless AP. So that's very handy to label your interfaces. That's how you can do it from the command line interface. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you can catch all the other parts of our configuration guide for this FS S3410-48TS-P network switch. Bye.